Popeye, the video game. Why the sudden interest in Popeye, the video game? Well, this game's actually pretty interesting if you look at it from a historic point of view. This game came out in the arcades, developed by Nintendo in 1982, a year after Donkey Kong. And story has it that originally Donkey Kong was going to be a Popeye game, and they couldn't get the license for Popeye, so they just made this generic Mario character instead. And then, the following year, they were able to get the rights for Popeye, and so they did their Popeye game. There's a lot of similarities to Donkey Kong, the way this game looks, the way it sounds. It's developed by the same people, mostly from Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto, most of note. And it came out on the Famicom in 1983. So the Famicom launched in Japan in 1983. This was one of 3 launch titles for the Famicom. So we got an arcade that came out, Donkey Kong came out in the arcades in 81, Popeye came out in the arcades in 82, and we got a port as a launch title on the Famicom in 83. These early Famicom games are interesting me more and more lately. The NES almost has 2 lives. It has a life before Super Mario Brothers came out, and it has a life after Super Mario Brothers came out. These early Famicom games, 1983, 1984, no mappers, super small ROM size, I think these are 16K. Kilobytes. It's crazy. So, simpler arcade games, usually single screen, less music, less characters and enemies, overall simpler games, but it is a unique time. So you had, a couple years of Famicom games before Super Mario Brothers. Anyways, Popeye here is just a classic arcade game. It's fun, it's colorful, it's got the little jingles here and there. They did the license proud, I think. The characters all look like the characters they're supposed to look like. And it's just a fun, high score game. Is similar to Donkey Kong in a lot of ways, even just down to the fact that there's, 3 screens in this one, or 4? And you're just repeating, trying to get the high score. But I think it plays, sounds very similar to Donkey Kong. Obviously, it's using the same arcade board. It was developed by the same people for the most part, so no surprise there. This game, I think, should be more popular than it is, maybe. But I think, the fact that Switch game came out recently has brought more attention to the arcade. I certainly hadn't paid the arcade game any attention until that. And when that came out, it sort of just reminded me, oh yeah, that was a really, early Nintendo game. Let's take a look into that. And it was interesting to find out that, Donkey Kong was originally going to be a Popeye game. And that led to this. So there you go, Popeye. The arcade version, pretty similar to the NES version. They did a good translation on the Famicom. But again, 1983, this was a launch title on the Famicom in Japan. And definitely worth checking out. Worth owning if you can find a copy on the NES. It's not cheap. It's a lot cheaper on the Famicom. You get it for like $15 on the Famicom, but an NES copy might cost you 3 times that, 4 times that even. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you can. See you later.